So one of the most commonly asked questions that we are asked by our clients is, if we're buying a property, how do we bring the money from the UK and bring it over to Spain? So bringing it from pounds sterling over to euros here in Spain. And obviously, if you do this right, you're going to save yourself a lot of money. If you do it wrong, it could cost you a lot of money. So this week we have Alan Lawrence from Lumen Currency FX. Alan's got 13 years experience here in Spain. So Alan, would you just like to introduce yourself briefly and explain about yourself?
Basically, yeah, I'm Alan. I work for Lumon. I'm a Senior Partnerships Manager of Lumon based here in Spain. My role is basically to liaise with estate agents, lawyers, etc., and obviously help explain our services to their clients when they need our services.
And we've worked together for a large portion of the 13 years that you've been.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, pretty much all of that, yeah.
You're the only guy I was going to call to do this. So perfect.
It's reassuring.
So can you explain to the people watching this how currency FX companies work?
How does currency actually work? Yeah, this is a very, very good question, because obviously currency can be very daunting to clients. Essentially, the best way to look at currency is that it's a product. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult for people to think of money as being a product, but basically it is a product.
Yeah.
So when a client wants to buy currency, they'll either go to their bank, a currency company, post office, etc., to buy that currency. So essentially that business is retailing a product to that currency. Mm-hmm. So what essentially happens is those businesses will go to the wholesale money market, they'll buy that currency at the prevailing market rate, they'll then deduct a margin off mm-hmm. that currency, i.e. the profit, and then they'll retail that product, the currency, to the client.
Okay.
So it's not rocket science.
Okay, so you mentioned then that people go into a post office and things like that, which leads nicely on to sort of one of the questions that we're frequently asked is that people say they go into the post office and they look at the rate and they think, that's not great. Obviously I'm aware that we have things like the commercial rate and the holiday rate. Can you explain the different rates that people will often see when they're looking at currency?
You're quite right, Steve. There's different areas of currency exchange. So you have your tourist rates and your travel money. Mm-hmm. You have your commercial foreign exchange as well. So the reason why the rates aren't very good with maybe tourist money is because very often that business is handling very, very small transactions. It's all done in cash, and obviously cash handling can be very expensive for businesses, mm-hmm. and it involves a lot more staff, offices and security, which increases overhead. So therefore a tourist rate is not going to be as good as a commercial rate. Commercial foreign exchange is exchange on behalf of international businesses mm-hmm. who are changing currency for world trade, but also for clients who are buying and selling properties abroad as well. So with commercial foreign exchange, there's less overheads involved, and therefore the client will receive a rate that's much closer to that prevailing market rate.
Okay. So if a client, so for example, has sold a property in the UK and they've bought a property here in Spain, they're told by their lawyer how much they need to bring over, what's the best way for them to bring that lump sum of money over from the UK and over here to Spain in euros?
Well, undoubtedly the best way to move those large sums across to Spain is to consider using a currency company. Mm-hmm. There's two main benefits for a client using a currency company to move their funds. The first being that they will receive a much more competitive rate of exchange than going through the bank. Mm-hmm. So basically, because the currency companies are much smaller companies than the big financial institutions, they have less overhead, so therefore they can operate on smaller margins and sell and retail the currency to that client at a much better rate than the bank. Mm-hmm. The second benefit is the client gets to work with a currency dealer or a currency trader to assist with the timing of their exchange. Okay. And in the case of some companies such as ourselves, there's a third benefit whereby we can actually help clients avoid Spanish bank receiving fees when actually sending those large sums of money into Spain.
Okay. So you touched briefly there on the assistance of a broker. So how can a broker specifically help a client when they're bringing the money over? And with things, I don't know, the timing of the transfer and things like that, how can they help?
Yeah, the timing of a client's currency exchange is probably the hardest part of the buying process. Yeah. So, when a client agrees to buy a property, chances are they're going to complete on that property within 6 to 8 weeks' time.
That's right, yeah.
So obviously the market is going to fluctuate within that time scale. the role of the currency dealer is basically to impart information and give that client guidance on what is going on with the exchange rate.
Okay.
So he'll explain where the rate is and what factors are currently affecting that rate, but also make the client aware of what is on the radar that could affect the rate. And there's a lot of things that dovetail into the rate statement, such as economic data, politics, interest rate decisions.
What Vladimir Putin's doing at any particular
exactly,
time.
That is having an effect at the moment,
Okay. So so the scenario we've set is somebody buying a property in Spain and bringing the money in from sterling. But obviously it sometimes happens the other way. So they need to repatriate the funds. So they've sold their villa here in Spain. Sadly, they're leaving and they're going to buy something in the UK. Does it work the same way in reverse?
Again, in reverse, if a client's selling a property, one of the best things they can do is consider using a currency company to move the money back to the UK. Because, as you said, the same thing in reverse in terms of the much more competitive rate of exchange, and plus obviously guidance from a currency dealer. But one of the big advantages of using a currency company such as ours in that process is the ability to clear their money out of Spain without incurring excessive Spanish bank fees, because bank fees associated with clearing drafts or bank transfers can be very, very expensive.
Okay, so we've spoken mainly about the proceeds of selling a property either in the UK, bringing money here, or vice versa. But also when people live in Spain, it's often if their pension or they have money in the UK and they need to bring that over. So what I'm saying is really smaller transfers for utility bills, for ongoing running expenses and things like that. Can they also use a currency FX company for doing that sort of thing?
Yeah, whenever a client has a requirement to move money across to Spain, whether that be a small payment or a larger payment, it's always best to look at using a currency company. As currency companies, we have systems set up to handle smaller payments, so very often clients can obviously administer those payments online. There's always the ability to speak to someone over the phone to move money across to Spain as well. And in terms of pension transfers or regular payments to keep their Spanish banks topped up, we all basically have automated services whereby clients can move money by direct debit or standing order to make life as easy as possible for the client.
Okay, so simplicity is one factor. One thing that I'm sure everybody will also be concerned about is security. That obviously, it's your life savings, it's the proceeds of your home in the UK that you're bringing here to Spain, or the other way around. What sort of security is there involved when people are dealing with foreign exchange companies?
Well, you'd be glad to know the answer to that question is it's very safe to deal with foreign exchange companies. As long as the foreign exchange company the client is using is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, that should indicate to the client that funds are being handled as safely as possible. So all currency companies will operate correctly segregated client accounts. So when the client's money enters that account, it is referenced to that client. So at any point in time, we know whose money is in our account, who it belongs to. So God forbid, if a currency company goes insolvent tomorrow, those funds are ring-fenced and they can then be returned to the client. Okay,
so that should give people more peace of mind when it comes to that,
Also as well, with clients who are actually based in Spain, or if a client is looking to use a company to purchase properties in Europe as well, it's always best to check that the company has the European license as well.
Okay.
Because if we're handling monies on behalf of a client in Spain, again, they want the same reassurance that those funds are safeguarded.
Okay. So really to bring the conversation to a conclusion, if a client then is in a position where they're going to need to use an FX company, what are the steps that they should do in order to open an account and start the ball rolling?
Yeah, it's quite a simple process. The client just needs to register and open an account with the FX company. To do that, all we have to do is basically verify the client's identity. If the client lives in the UK, we can do that via running a search against the address to prove they live where they say live and identify the client. Very often outside of the UK, we may ask the client to provide a copy of a passport or some other form of photographic ID, and maybe a proof of address, so utility bill, bank statement, just so we can be sure that we are definitely dealing with the client.
Of course, yeah.
question. And obviously other things the client will be asked is what is the reason for buying the currency or sending the money abroad, and how have they come about the funds that they're about to exchange as well.
Okay, perfect. So I think that's answered all the questions that we'd set and answered them very well. So thank you very, very much. If you have any questions for Alan, please drop me a line and we can put you in contact with him, and he'll be more than happy to assist you. That's it for this week's 2 Minute Tuesday. It's been informative for me. I hope it's been informative for you as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you for the next episode in a couple of weeks' time. Until then, adios.
Thank you.